Hello, guitar enthusiasts of every stripe, description, and walk of life. It's me, Steve, the original OG guitar nut. I guess that's redundant. The O in OG stands for original. Don't even worry about it. Hey, so we're up to episode, what'll this be, 12? That's a cool dozen. That's a kind of an achievement, right? Speaking of achievements, we're at last count about 18 subscribers away from hitting 300, which is a milestone. Means nothing, but it's kind of cool. Maybe when we hit 300, I'll give something away. Who knows? Anything's possible, right? Speaking of giving things away, while we're talking about 300 of us out there, I've gotten several, actually many, messages from viewers saying that, hey, we really hope that that whole Operation Chickenbacker thing would lead us to find a reliable source for good, usable Rickenbacker knockoffs, which obviously the one I found is of no use to anybody, and would like to see more of that. And the suggestion was just go after a traditional model, but find a good builder. And I'm all down for that, except I am tapped out financially. I just sold my beloved Gibson SG Junior, a real one, not a knockoff, to fund a new interesting project, let's say. I'm going to make you guys aware of the whole thing in an upcoming episode. We'll dedicate a whole episode to this new and interesting instrument that I'm putting together to use with my original band, Reverse Bonaducci. I've got a sound in my head that I want to get out and have it be like the signature thing, not gimmick, but the signature sound of my new music. We'll talk more about that later. Regardless, people want to see more Chickenbackers. They want to see more of this, more of that. They want to see some reviews. At the level we're at here with sub 300 subscribers, I'm not going to be getting companies contacting me to review stuff for free. They're not going to be sending me stuff for free, I should say. So to that end, we're going to have the first annual Guitar Nuts Anonymous telethon. No, but seriously, I've already had a couple of people, for the second time, in the case of one particular viewer, Bal, thank you so much out there, I know you're watching, who's made a generous contribution to the fund to see Operation Chickenbacker Mach 2 and beyond go on. But it's going to take a whole lot more than that, because I, as much as I'd love to just be able to throw down $350 every month to order another Chickenbacker until we finally strike gold and find the right builder, I can't afford to do it. But if you'd like to help out, by all means, the PayPal address is still the original name of the show, rickenbackeranonymous@gmail.com, if you'd like to make some kind of a contribution. And also to that end, I've started a Patreon thing for the show. If you want to go and, what's the term, pledge a bit of money, maybe every month, to help out around here, that would be huge, and we could actually fund all these interesting things. If there's 300 of us, if everybody pledged $1 a month, that'd be basically enough to order one guitar a month. I mean, close to it. Not that that's ever going to happen, because, let's be realistic, but it's, it's a thought. So I'm going to include a link to the Patreon down in the interesting stuff below, as usual. Enough with all that. Is there any guitar news to mention before we move on to the $50 Guitar Challenge? Yes, Paul Reed Smith has released a line of pedals. There's 3 of them. One's called the Horse Meat, for reasons that they can explain themselves. They've got a compressor called Cries Mary, because when I think of Jimi Hendrix and When Cries Mary, first thing I think of is compression. What? Anyway, regardless, we're talking about a compressor that's like 225 and an overdrive that's like 250 and a dual flanger that's like $350. So in other words, like all non-SE Paul Reed Smith products, they're incredibly overpriced and aimed at a particular few people, but they sound good, so whatever. Speaking of sounding good, how many of you out there, and I'm going to guess it's practically all of you, have found themselves reaching a point, at least on occasion, where you feel like your creativity is tapped? You pick up your guitar and you play the same old licks you always play, you're bored to death. Maybe you're a songwriter, maybe you're not. Whatever the case is, you know, you hit that block and you just say, gosh, I wish there was something new I could do. Spark my creativity, make the guitar, songwriting, music, whatever it is you're into, or all the above, interesting again, right? So here's the deal. I've come up with something called the $50 challenge. Now, I have only lived in a few places, Chicago, Nashville, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota when I was a kid, but that doesn't really count for this. So I can only say what I know. But here locally, you can find electric guitars, usable electric guitars, for $50 or less practically any day of the week between Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And now we're not talking about great guitars. We're usually talking about Squiers or something of that nature. You know, old guitars that were cheap in the first place. Maybe they JB players or used to be Kramers, but all of a sudden Kramers are valuable again. Regardless, the point is this. There are guitars out there that can be found probably even in your town, even if you live in a small place, for very little money. And there's things you can do with them. I'm going to show you 4 plus 1 honorable mention that can spark your creativity or rekindle your verve for playing. Let's just get right into it, shall we? I'm going to tell you what I paid for each of these instruments and show you what we, you know, me, myself, and I, the three of us, have come up with. So, for starters, I'm going to show you this lovely Gallatin branded Telecaster. I actually bought this brand new. This was the very first eBay purchase I ever made, all the way back in 1999. I don't remember exactly, but I think I might have given $48 or something like that for it, plus shipping. I almost immediately converted it to what it is now. I haven't changed any parts. I just removed one. So this is a roughly $50 Telecaster copy. What I've done is Keith Richards it, whatever. 5 strings, open G. Now if you're new to open tunings, basically you're tuning the guitar so that when you play an open chord, it plays a major, you know, just a major chord rather than just the usual muck. It could even be a minor chord, but that's a different story. The important thing is this one is an open G, and like Keith Richards, I've determined that the 6th string was redundant, so I removed the 6-string peg and the 6-string saddle, tuned it to open G. Now what is open G, you might ask? Well, you remove the top string, or you can leave it on, tune it to a D, or even tune it up to a G, whichever, both ways work. I personally found that when I use 6 strings, I preferred tuning it up to a G. But regardless, you're going to tune your A string down to a G. You're going to leave your D string where it was, your G string where it was, your B string where it was. Bring your top E down to D. So, G, D, G, B, D. Okay? Well, what does this give us? Well, for a start, I mentioned Keith Richards. It gives us some Stone stuff. Pretty cool, right? It also can be an interesting songwriting tool. I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that John Cougar Mellencamp, Schmidt, whatever his name was at the time, was in an open G guitar when he wrote Jack and Diane. Can't prove it, but see how this falls into the fingers so easily. I just have the sneaking suspicion that he had an open G guitar. Never seen an interview or anything confirming or denying it, but there it is. So the point is, something you can do. All you have to do is remove a string, remove a tuner and a bridge saddle, or don't. Like I said, leave them all on there and just tune your low string to a D or a G. Roll with it. So there's one idea, something you can do that can spark your creativity. on the cheaps. You're out very little. So, one down. I'm going to step out of frame. All right. Since we're already in Telecaster land, this one here should really get some some OCD people into a huff. As you can tell, this was actually a left-handed Squier Telecaster. Picked this up from a local pawn shop for $40. Tax included. Some Yahoo carved deer heads into the top. This is a logo from a company that I won't mention. Painted the thing this pukey brown color. And I picked it up, as I said, for $40. Restrung it righty. Used it for a gig or two for fun. I wound up dropping the controls down inside because they kept getting in my way. I just left the toggle switch. Regardless, here's the thing. Similarly to the Open G thing, well, it could be Open G. You can have a guitar dedicated to just slide. Now, of course, you can just pick up an old warped guitar, but the fun fact, when people have a guitar with a warped neck, they'll usually list it as wonderful slide guitar, you know, and in actuality, it's just a great way of saying, gee, this guitar has a screwed neck. But what I was trying to show is, this is essentially converting this guitar to a lap steel. Notice this enormous nut extension thing I have here. I'll include a picture of it right over there, I think. This is something you can pick up, I believe, on Amazon, a few other places, for less than $10. It's a metal nut, what's the term that they use? Extender. It raises the strings up. As you can see, they're way high. And the idea is you're turning your guitar into a lap steel. And you could also use it as a standard stand-up steel, I suppose, since it's strapped on, but just let me show you this here. Where's my sound? Oh, it works so much better when you plug it in. All right, so got this one tuned to an open E. So do just that. Put one of these things on, and suddenly you're instant slide guitar / lap steel. Do with it as you wish. But it's cheap, it's effective, it's fun. You can use a number of different open tunings. And again, it's a nice way to freshen up your playing. So, 2 tellies down. Now, you just knew that we couldn't possibly have a show about cheap guitars and not have a Squier Strat show up because they're practically ubiquitous. In fact, I believe by definition they are ubiquitous. This one, something quite different. A lot of you might be familiar with Gary Glitter, or at least you're familiar with his song Rock and Roll Part 2 that seems to get played at practically every major sporting event. If you don't know it by name, you'll know it when I play it. But what we did here, again, me, myself, and I, actually, strike that. Wrong guitar. This is all live, folks. I can't make this up. This was the guitar I was thinking of for the Gary Glitter thing. This is a Maestro, kind of a Les Paul Jr. looking thing. This I got for $25 as part of a deal of 3 guitars and a Made in USA PV bass. I got all 4 for $100 cash here locally in Nashville. What we have here is what they like to call the glitter band tuning, but it's been used by lots of other people as well, Velvet Underground amongst them. What I have is a bunch of E's. Now don't get out your tuner and check to see if these are still E's, because they may not be. And it's been in a cold room, so let's see. basically 2 low E's, 2 middle E's, 2 high E's. And I used a standard set of strings and just tuned around until I found a way to make that work. So I've got a couple of really tight strings, a couple of really loose strings. But regardless, you get kind of a modal thing. You could even play around with letting strings ring and just do kind of a faux sitar thing. But when I was talking about the Glitter Band, they did this thing. They figured out that if you added some overdrive to this particular sound, you can almost get the sound of like saxophones or something. A lot of people assume that there was brass on this song, and it was just a guitar tune like this. So see if you recognize this. There it is. Could have played that a little better, but the action on this thing is kind of horrific, and I didn't bother to shin the neck to make it play better. If I'd have spent some more time on it, I definitely could have got it playing better, and I probably could have practiced the part a little more, but you know what? You're getting the idea. Fun fact, if you're familiar with the Goo Goo Dolls and their song Iris, which whether you know it by name or not, you've heard, their guy, Resnick, I believe was his name, Johnny Resnick, he had his guitar, his acoustic, tuned to all D's, D, 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 in octaves, and then the low string all the way down to a B, and wrote that whole song around that. So the point being, there's things you can do. I mean, it's a lot you can do, and it's one note, but pretty effective. Plus, you can take yourself back to your early days of when you were playing, you know, single note songs because it's all you could do, you know, or play Iron Man or whatever else. Point being, it's an interesting thing, and you know, have some fun with it. So back to the guitar we were talking about before, the Strat. Yes, the Strat. Now what I meant to say when I was talking about the Strat, I've got this guy tuned to what they call Nashville tuning. What's that? Well, it's usually the top octave 6 strings from a 12-string guitar set. So you wind up with a whole lot of things that are up an octave higher than what you're expecting. In this particular case, I've replaced the low E string with another high E string, so that, well, here's all the usual chords you would know. It's a G, C, D. Boy, that's out of tune. There we go. Let's get a little cleaner sound. Still a bit out of tune, but you get the idea. You have all your usual chords that you already know. Everything works. But you get this ethereal sound. There it is. It was the high E string. Well, one of the high E strings. This was something that was used extensively on a lot of, as I mentioned, obviously Nashville songs, double acoustic parts and things. But it was also used a lot by the Rolling Stones, like Angie, Wild Horses. It's something that just adds that extra element to a track you're recording or even something live. It's easy enough to do. Just get some single guitar strings. Replace your E, A, and D with much smaller strings. Your G, B, and E can stay the same. And it's tuning is driving me crazy. There we go. So there's something else you can do. A Nashville tuned guitar. By the way, this is one of the guitars I bought in that $100 bundle. So if this was a $25 Strat, one of the bridge saddles broke while I was restringing it. Found out these are really cheap pot metal, so I'm probably going to order a new set of saddles for this before I get rid of it. Speaking of get rid of things, these cheapo guitars, for the most part, are going to be giveaway items. Don't have any need for them. I've got a room full of nice guitars, but not bragging. It's nothing to brag about. It's an addiction. Let's see. So what else have we got? Let's go over this now. We've got the open G guitar. We've got the instant lap steel. We've got the Gary Glitter sound, and we've got and by the way, no child molesting jokes about Gary Glitter. Nothing's been proven. And we've got the Strat in open G Nashville tuning. Now, as a honorable mention, here's something you can do that works really well with Strats and Tellys particularly. I actually did it with something else. This is a really old as in 10 years ago, sort of a Rickenbacker 381 knockoff. Forgot how heavy this darn thing is. This was originally a 12 string. It wasn't a great 12 string, didn't stay in tune. It did get used for my old band Incognito Cartel for their recording of their album, but it was a pain to stay in tune. Regardless, I stripped it all down, lost half the tuners, and strung it up with a set of baritone guitar strings. The wide neck really worked well with the baritone. That's the one thing they got right on this particular knockoff, was that they made the neck really wide, which was great for a 12 string. It's just kind of a shame that it didn't work out better for what it was meant to be. But regardless, I strung it up as a baritone. Those of you that don't know, a baritone is generally tuned down a fourth lower than a regular guitar. Generally B to B. It still has the same interval, so your chords still work. It's just now you have a low B, and then your regular string to E, A, D, but then an F sharp and a B, because you're still following the usual paradigm. But you can do some really cool things with some spaghetti western kind of things, and country riffs and great lead instrument. A lot of fun. And I actually used this guitar in this configuration in the studio with my good friend Jonathan Pushkar when he did his recording of the Beatles' I Call Your Name for a John Lennon tribute album that was released by is it Gem Records that he's with? And he had a really cool video that included the guy that played drums on the original recording, which was none other than the original drummer from Wings. So how cool is that? And I got to be in the video playing this, looking a little bit like Luke Skywalker in a white linen outfit. Why? I have no idea. But yeah, me, Jeff Britton from Wings, Jonathan Pushkar. It's a cool video. I'll include a link below if you want to check it out. This was considerably more than 50 bucks, but there's no reason I couldn't have done this with any one of those guitars that's down there, especially the Strats and Tellys. This baritone thing works really well on the longer scale you have, the better, basically, because most baritones are 27 inches or more. Standard Fenders are 25 and a half. That works pretty well. This, like a Rick, is more in the 24 and 3/4 range, but it worked just fine. lot of fun with this, and I need to play this thing more. I'm really enjoying it. So, did any of these give you any ideas? Something you want to try yourself? Are you going to message me and say, hey, what are you talking about? There are no $50 guitars in my area. Well, that's possible. Maybe you live in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, or Spearfish, South Dakota. I have no idea why I chose those two. But the point being, there are cheap guitars to be had practically everywhere. You might have to spend $100, not $50. Here's the great thing. If it turns out that one of these particular things really gets your juices flowing, you can just pitch the whole cheapo guitar idea. You can do any of these with a nice guitar and leave it that way. You know, maybe you've got an extra, you know, nicer guitar laying around that you don't use. Maybe your first guitar. Lots of things you could do. But you can set a guitar up in one of these systems, so to speak, one of these paradigms, and leave it that way and have it around as a spare. And it could be any price point. You know, I mean, you could do this stuff with a real Rickenbacker if you wanted to. At one point in time, I had a Nashville tuned Rickenbacker. I don't remember where I sold that one, nor why. I probably needed the money. Speaking of money, please give till it hurts. Yeah, you know the deal. So anyway, as I said, I hope this sparked your creativity. Hope this gave you some ideas. I wish I'd have played a little better on some of this stuff, but it's very early in the morning here. My hands are very cold. I can make a million excuses. Let's just say this. I like to think I'm a better guitar player than what I exhibited today, but I'm not terribly prepared, which will come as a shock to all you longtime viewers, because you know how usually on top of things I really am. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a really interesting project that I'm going to be putting together to try to have a unique sound for my new band, Reverse Bonaduce. Don't call it a gimmick. It's just going to be a unique sound. And it's going to involve, well, I can give a little bit of a hint. It's going to involve this bad boy right here. If you can see this in the background, my beloved Squier Bass 6. I'm going to go for something very original, I'd like to think, and get to it in a very interesting way. And I'm going to go over the entire process with you guys. I don't know how many of you will find it interesting, but the ones of you that do will probably find it fascinating. The rest of you will tune out after a couple of minutes and say, this guy's out of his mind. Can neither confirm nor deny. So, until the next time, as usual, I am Steve. You are Guitar Nuts, or else you wouldn't be here. Certainly 28 minutes in, you wouldn't be here. Until next time, stay frosty, stay cool, chime on, and for the sake of all things holy and otherwise, have a good time. Play some guitar. Spark your creativity, fire your imagination, and just have fun. Till next time, I am out.